It's always an interesting scene out on the water, kind of like this scene here where this vessel lost power and nearly collides with a lighthouse off the coast in the UK. Just one of the interesting things we'll see in this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over off the coast of Bangladesh, where this was the scene this past week, when a small feeder ship was moving containers when all of a sudden the vessel lost stability and partially sunk, losing several containers overboard. The vessel seen in the images here is the 19-year-old ship Panagon Express, and reports indicate the vessel departed Chattogram around 4 a.m. when all of a sudden the vessel encountered heavy seas near the area of Bashanshar Island. Local weather services earlier in the day had issued a warning of possible heavy weather in the area, and the crew on board the vessel claimed they experienced strong wind, rolling seas, as well as a heavy tide. The captain attempted to navigate the vessel back closer to shore, but quickly realized they were in trouble and issued a distress call around 11 a.m. with 12 people on board. Fortunately, a Good Samaritan vessel was in the area and was able to pull the 12 people off the boat, but local authorities have issued warnings to local vessels to be on the lookout as many containers are believed to be in the water. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to bring us back stateside and take us over to Washington, where this was the scene this past week, when 3 people, including a 14-year-old, found themselves in trouble when their 38-foot vessel became disabled near the south end of Lopez Island. The Coast Guard said weather conditions had pushed the group's boat up onto the rocks near the island's rocky shore. An air crew was quickly deployed from Port Angels, and upon arriving on the scene, dropped a rescue swimmer into the water so he could approach the vessel to make sure everybody on board was okay. Once on board the vessel, crews quickly determined the best course of action was to get the people off the boat onto the island to do a land rescue. Once the Coast Guard rescue swimmer was able to successfully get everybody off the boat and onto the island, the Coast Guard Jayhawk helicopter landed, loaded all the crew up, and brought them safely back to the mainland. In this incident, fortunately, no injuries were reported due to the quick efforts of the Coast Guard, and it's currently being assessed what kind of salvage operation will be required to try and get the boat off the island. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to keep us over on the west coast and take us to the coast of Oregon, where this was the scene a couple weeks back, when charter vessel captain Wayne Butler had to jump into action to attempt to rescue boaters who found themselves tangled in the rocks in Brandon, Oregon. Captain Butler and his team were returning from a charter trip on board their vessel, the Prowler, when they came across this crew that had stuck themselves on the rocks. The Prowler's crew instructed the distressed boaters to get in the water as they deployed life rings to try and pull them in.
Life ring. Ooh. Last guy in the water. Dragging him over to the Prowler. The winds are going to come up to about 30 miles an hour here in the next hour or so. That boat will get beat. That boat will end up on the beach here in pieces. Well, good job. Good job, guys.
I'm being told by local people that this is actually Captain Butler and the Prowler crew's second rescue of the season, as they rescued just a few weeks prior to this another boater who'd found himself in the exact same situation.
Well, thank God for Wayne and the Prowler. We don't have Coast Guard in the bay anymore. Lucky for those guys, Wayne was around to come assist with the rescue. There was one other boat out there crabbing. Don't really understand why he didn't go over and lend a hand with those guys. That's beyond me. I think I could have bucked up against him, almost got him off the boat, my boat. Anyways, thanks Wayne. Guys from the Prowler.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out on your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let us know, and you might see your stories over here, just like Daniel Hathaway, Curtis Miller, and Chris Jenkin did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here.